my stand. Their personality, and I want to work in fraud.
Oh, well, that would be great to be an analyzer in fraud. Awesome. Yeah, analyzers have both assertion and high attention to organization and structure and low patience. So, yeah.
Oh, that's not true for her.
Well, our definition of patience is not, let me explain it. Our definition of patience is people that like variety, like not doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Okay.
Does that resonate a little more or no?
Sure. Yeah.
She's like, I don't know. All right, cool. Okay, after this session, I'm gonna send you a reference profile guide so that you have a copy and can read a little bit more about the different reference profiles. We'll send this to you. Okay. PI is, like I said, a behavioral assessment. It's not measuring who you are all the time. It measures what you need to be in your zone and how strong you need to be in your zone. So when we look at PI patterns, and your self pattern is that top chart on your report, or your placard if you're looking at the placard, drives that are to the right of the center line are high. So the way we interpret PI patterns are, if my dot is to the right of the center triangle, those are your high drives. Okay, and drives that are to the left of the center line, those are your low drives. It's not good to be high or bad to be low. PI is just measuring relative to other people, how high or low are you in the following drives. So if you look at your A dot, you're either high to the right of center or low to the left of center. This is measuring your drive for influence and control. Okay. It's your natural drive for how much do I want to be assertive, take charge, have my own opinion known. So raise your hand if you're high A, your A's to the right. Yeah, you like to be in charge. And the further to the right, the more you're going to prefer to be somewhat in charge. Now, listen, none of us like being told what to do all the time. That's not what this is about. But the further to the right, the more you're going to enjoy jobs where you have a little bit more influence, a little bit more autonomy. Right? If it's to the left, it doesn't mean that you don't lead or that you aren't assertive. It just means that you can be a little bit more comfortable in an environment where maybe you don't make all the decisions. Somebody might make important decisions and you can be a team player and be like, okay, I can get on board with that. You don't always want to be controlling what everybody's doing around you. Jealous of that because a lot of times in the workplace, nowadays, the most effective leadership style is democratic. So if you are a low A, don't think that means I'm not a leader. It means you're a democratic leader, which is more effective. Those of you who are high A's, you're going to want to lead in a more assertive way, and that's going to work sometimes, and sometimes you're going to have to adapt. Okay. All right. Extroversion is measuring your drive for social interaction. So if you're B's to the right of center, you're a high B. That means you need social interaction. You prefer to have connection, relationships. You prefer to do work with other people. If you're B's to the left of center, you are more task focused, more of a person who thinks before you speak. So you like to not, like when the crazy PI lady's like putting you on the spot, low B's are like, I need to think first. Why is she asking me questions? All right. C is patience. For us, patience is, I wish we could change the name of this drive because it's not about how patient you are in the traditional sense of the word patience. For us, it is about the need for consistency. So there are some people when they do their work, they like to know exactly what to expect and they like to have consistency or what's familiar. They also appear to be a little bit more relaxed in their demeanor and tend to be comfortable with what's familiar. If you're low in patience, you're a little bit less relaxed in your demeanor because you do have a little bit of a kind of a sense of urgency in terms of how you want to see action happening and you like a little bit more variety. So you're okay if today I thought I was going to do 7 things, if you're a low C and you have 7 other things. A high C is like, uh-oh, wait a minute. This is what I thought I was doing. It's a little bit of a different style. And then formality D is the drive to conform to rules and structure. I'm going to go deeper in all of these, but you can ask a question about patience.
Yeah, because just mine is like almost like smack dab in the middle.
Yeah, that means you're situational in that drive. So if any of your drives are close to the midpoint, that's the average. So y'all know about norming because you're still in school, but I have to imagine a norming curve of the human population across that midpoint. PI is a normative instrument and about 50 million people take this assessment. And so you get against other people. So if you're towards the center, it means you're kind of like in the average, meaning that you could maybe do either, depending on the situation. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good questions.
That question over
there. Yep.
What if this is like kind of very contradictory to like other personality tests we've taken?
It could be because this is not a personality test, it's a behavioral drive. So
Okay.
what assessment are you thinking about?
Well, I've taken the like INTF,
Yeah.
those ones, and then also the
Yeah, those are measuring a little bit different things. PI is a behavioral assessment. So the only crossover with the Myers-Briggs and this one is maybe extroversion, except for our assessment, the extroversion is more about your need to talk things out and your need for people at work.
Okay.
Whereas the other one's more your personality,
Okay,
if that
yeah.
makes sense.
I think, yeah, it's just different definitions of the same word.
Correct.
That's tripping me up, yeah. Cause I was like, that's very different.
Are you an I in Myers-Briggs? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's kind of in between, but
Okay.
I'm more on the I side and then on this side, I'm way not, like, I'm on the other side of the collaborative.
Yeah.
Like, it's.
So for our assessment, yours is probably not so much. I like to do all the parties and I'm the life of the party because I'm always talking. And our assessment is I want a job where I interact with people. And I do need to have relationships and have a good relationship with the people.
Okay, that makes more
It's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for asking that, because if you've taken others, those are personality assessments. This is more like what drives you in a little bit different context.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. Okay. The D drive is the formality. So this is the natural, like, hey, how much do I really believe there's a right way and a wrong way of doing things? And I like to do things the right way. So the higher your D, the more you are going to want to be in jobs that have right and wrong answers. Hey, y'all are, many of you are high Ds. If you're not, fear not. This doesn't mean you're bad with details. This is detail orientation is a cognitive function. What it means is if you are a low D, you're going to be more capable of thinking outside the box and thinking, okay, well, what could be a flexible way of thinking about this or making this decision? You're more risk tolerant. The lower your D is, the more you're comfortable with risk. So you might be gravitating towards jobs that allow you a little bit more flexibility. So you want to be a financial planner. That is very flexible depending on the client and you know, how risky they want to be. And so you'll have flexibility in that. Accounting is a little bit more, there is a right answer and a wrong answer. But some accountants are working with small businesses where there's much more gray. Right? So I own a small business. And so my accountant is not worried about certain things as much as if I were running a Fortune 100 company. So there's a difference, right? Okay. And then there's a little E on your synthesis pattern. So when you look at that third chart, there's an E. If your E is to the left of center, you will see the word subjective. That just means you're intuitive. You trust your intuition. Okay. If your E is to the right of the center line, it means, no, I would prefer to have some kind of objective supporting information. Again, this is not how you make decisions all the time. It's just right now, as you answer the assessment, you might have a lean towards your intuition or not. Now, intuition is based on experience and your brain fast forwarding through experiences. Are any of you intuitive? Little, like slightly.
I feel like I need to like trust it more because I can like it's usually right-ish. And if I second guess it, I kind of like mess it up.
Excellent. All right. So again, as I was mentioning, when you look at your PI pattern, when you think about like width of the pattern, it's really telling us about how strong do you associate with the trait as you look at ABCD versus other people. So the closer you are to average, the more moderate you are in that particular trait. When the trait starts coming out, you answered with more adjectives that indicate, ooh, I really associate, I feel strongly about this drive, whether it's high or low. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this in context of work. So high dominance people. High dominance people tend to be more hell-oriented. Okay, they're more assertive, they're more opinionated. They're more comfortable saying, I don't agree. Now, y'all are still maturing. This will be more forthright the more other people are willing to let you do that. When I was young, I'm very assertive. I held it back a little bit because I was like, I don't know. I'm not the most tenured person here. It was uncomfortable for me. I wanted to be like, I don't agree. This is stupid. You can't do that when you're new in your career. So it was really uncomfortable for me early in my career when I was in charge and I had a little bit of influence. So how many of you are high dominance? Okay. So you're going to want to eventually kind of gravitate towards careers and jobs that give you more autonomy. You're going to feel more comfortable because you're going to like making your own decisions, having your own influence. It's going to be more important to you to have jobs that give you that at times, or at least a manager who allows you to have input. It's going to be important. All right, low A's. You are probably, and the lower the A, this is the further to the left, the more it's true. You probably, instead of just making a decision and feeling good about it, you're probably going to ask questions first, see what everyone else thinks. Low A's tend to be more collaborative in their decision making. They don't like to stick their neck out and say like, oh, I'm going to make the decision. And if it's wrong, I'll take the heat. Low A's are like, somebody else do it with me. Do it with me and we'll take the heat together, right? So you're more of a democratic style leader. Okay, so don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't be a leader as a low A. That is not true. You can be a leader wherever your A is. You're just going to have a natural style. You're going to have to learn when it works for you, when it doesn't. Low A's, do any of you feel like you're uncomfortable with conflict, especially with a superior? Okay. So you may have to find some scripts that help you have those conversations. Like jot down your thoughts. I already have. Which one do you like?
I had one for like negotiating my salary.
Oh, I love it.
Accepting my full-time offer. I wouldn't have done anything without that. So.
John, yeah. I have a low employee. She had to go have a conversation with her daycare. She was so afraid to tell them. And I was like, okay, practice with me. So she had to write down her thoughts and practice. And I was like, be more assertive. That was too nice. Your baby is not sleeping. So it's just a different style. So questions about dominance? Okay. When you think about partnerships in life, you may want to assess and figure out like, hey, are we both dominant? If you are, it's fine. You just need to know that going into it. Who's going to make what decisions? Because what's going to happen when we don't agree? Or am I dominant and you're not? I'm going to get tired of making all the decisions. So how are we going to balance that? Very important conversation going to any kind of partnership with another human being. Because it's just helpful to have those conversations up front. There's no magical like blend here. It's not about that. It's about knowing and having the conversation up front. What's going to come up? It might be awkward on a date to be like, I need to give you this assessment. I did do that. But you know what I was getting at.
Do that with your.
I send in the ones that I have to take for class and he finds them fun.
They're fun. It's a good
That's
conversation.
hilarious.
No, he loves them.
Really?
Well, because he's
Awesome.
like, I wanna learn, like, he's like, I'll
Yeah.
figure out what I am, I'm like,
Yeah.
Good conversation.
yeah, then it also helps me out.
Then you know how to
I
influence.
like it.
Yes.
But he knows how to influence too, I'm sure. All right, extroversion. So our assessment is a little bit different than personality assessments. Extroversion for us can come in PI, it can be, are you people focused in your decision making? So for me, it's more about this. I care about other people liking me, or I want them to perceive me in a positive light. So everything I say and do, I'm worried about, I'm kind of sensing the external environment, the people like, uh-oh, that person looked sideways. Do they not like me? Extroverts are a little more in tune with that. So when they make decisions and communicate, they are more people focused. Okay, they're more striving for a relationship and a connection. They can be more social, but it's not always about that. It can be about just needing connection or talking things out, thinking out loud. Low B people in our assessment need to think first before sharing. That's the big determinant. Most of the time they're like, I don't want to share. I want to think first. I don't know you. She's like, why are you asking me questions? So low B people, yeah, you want to share with people you've had time to warm up to, or you've had time to think before you kind of share and open up to another person. So it's a difference. So it's not about like, can you have jobs with other people? Low Bs can be in jobs very successfully where they have to talk to people and be around people, but it might not be as high of a need for you. If you're a very high B, you're going to need a job where you're interacting with people, or you're going to feel like you need to fulfill that somewhere.
So like hobby, is that like a job more associated with like sales?
Well, it depends on the sales. So I used to manage sales teams. My software sales people were more low Bs because they were selling based on their knowledge, and they were selling to IT directors and CIOs who really didn't want to chit chat. They were more concerned about, that you're sharing with me. So I think you can do sales either way. It's just going to influence what you like to sell and in what industry. I've had salespeople every style, but high B salespeople like relationship. They like selling services or a sales job where they can go out and meet people. They feel more comfortable. Low B salespeople are like, okay, I'm going to speak about my expertise and my knowledge, and that's how people are going to connect with me. I'm not going to go like ask you how your kids are. That's not how I'm going to connect with you. It's going to be about what I know and what I can share. So it's just a different style, which is okay. So don't shy away from sales if you're not extroverted. That's okay. There's sales jobs that require more task orientation. Other question? Okay. Patience. I hate the word patience, especially in the world we live in now. Nobody's patient. In this PIs, it's about the need for consistency. So if you're a high C, and you kind of like to know what to expect. And if there's a new action or a change, you're going to pause high Cs and be like, why? And is this more or less important? How am I going to change? Like what? So you're just a little bit, there's that pause to think about the action before you just run at the action. High Cs have that. Now, with you being an individualist, the next drive is lower, so you could be flexible. So if you have a high C and a low D, it counterbalances. Or vice versa, India, you have a low C with a high D. So you're comfortable with action as long as you know this is the right thing we're doing here. And, you know, I know that this is the right decision in the right way. So the C and D, when they're opposite, they can provide a counterbalance to some of these behaviors. Like my son is relaxed, he's deliberate, he's calm under pressure. But I can change things up on him and he'll be okay because his next drive is super low. So he's like, fine, I'll pivot. So, yeah. This trait will influence how much chaos you can handle. So the lower your C, the more you're going to thrive in a startup environment or an environment where things are constantly changing. The low C people do really well in those environments because it's kind of energizing. You're like, woohoo, change. Yeah.
What if like one C is to the right, one C is to the left, and then one's in the middle?
Oh, which one are you talking about? The 3 charts? You're really focusing on your top chart because that's based on that's your second question. This is who I think I really am. That's kind of your go-to. The other one is just what you think other people expect, the second chart.
Okay.
Yeah. So your main kind of behavioral drivers are going to come from who do you think you really are? Yep. And if you're in the middle, which you probably are being an adapter, pretty close, you can kind of be a good lens for change management because you have both perspective, the need for variety and changing and innovating, but also not changing too much so people feel comfortable with what's familiar. Yeah. All right, last but not least, D. So the D drive this is how much I believe there's a right way and a wrong way of doing things. So if you're a high D, you're a little bit more like there's a right way and a wrong way, and I need to do it right, and everyone else needs to do it right. So you're gonna like jobs where there's a little bit more like, yeah, that's the clarity around what we're doing here. You're not gonna like jobs high Ds with ambiguity. Like, hey, just start the project. Don't worry about it. We'll figure that stuff out later. High Ds are like, no. We're gonna figure it out now, and then we'll start. Low Ds can do that. They can be like, cool, I'll start, we'll get going, and we'll figure that. I'll be flexible. Okay. And then the E is going to change based on the types of decisions you make. I'm just going to tell you this one changes all the time. I imagine, raise your hand if you're a high E. I expect more of you in here to be high E's because of the school work you're doing. You might be really focused on objective information. So that might be feeding your E right now. When you ship jobs and do different things in life, your E can move. If you have to start using intuition more, you might see that gravitate further left towards intuitive or vice versa. This one does often shift by, you know, the kinds of decisions you're having to make in the work you're doing. Okay. Any questions?
So I have a question. But I think I can hold it to the end. Are you done?
No, I'm gonna do quick work styles, but
Okay, I can hold it to the end.
are you sure?
Yeah, because it's a general
Oh,
question. Yeah.
all right. I want to show you one more thing based on your reference profile. So you will have a primary work style. There's 4 primary styles. And when you have managers, these will be based off their PI, their leadership style. So if you work for someone right now, you can probably picture which style they are as we go through and talk about them. So there's a diplomat. Okay, the diplomat is a teamwork, relationship manager focused on teamwork, loyalty, making sure we're bringing the team together. They're relaxed, calm in their style. They like collaboration. They're always asking. What do you think? What do you think? The explorers are those that like innovation. They love new projects. They love taking on new things. They're people focused, so they are very, people focused and taking care of others, but they like action. They like new things, taking on new things. Warriors, I like the term. Warriors are those people that I always thought of my warriors as if I need something to be done, and it needs to be done fast and meticulously. Warriors. They move fast, they're precise, but they have a lot of assertion too. So they're intense people in a good way. Guardians. So obviously, if you're a guardian, you probably guess where you're going to be. Guardians are the people that really build a very well-oiled machine. So if we have a department where we have to have like process and we need to make sure that we are efficient and doing things in a scalable way, guardians shine. They can build, well-coordinated teamwork on a project or a department. They're our process people. Now, as when you go into leadership, you've got to master all these styles based on what your team needs or the situation, but you will have a preference based on your PI. So as we look at PI patterns, generally speaking, and you might gravitate across, there's a couple of you who are probably between, explorer and diplomat, for example, and vice versa. But you probably have a style that you kind of prefer based on your PI. Anybody surprised? Individualists float because you have a little bit of explorer in you, but you also have just a little bit of process because of the C. So you kind of float, interestingly. And so do adapters because you're adaptable. You can kind of naturally float to the different styles. Anybody surprised by your style?
I'm not necessarily surprised by mine, but I'm surprised by hers.
More diplomat?
Yeah.
I think that captains and persuaders and mavericks are enigmas because they have a combination of dominance and extroversion. So I think you would probably say that you are probably gravitate more towards the explorer, but you want to be a diplomat because you love your students and your job and your passion. I feel the same way. My people would peg me as a diplomat because I'm always doing things for them. I'm always asking, but in my head, I just want to go. But I know that's not a good, I want to ask. So we're adapting because we care about our people feeling included. And so yeah. Good job. You're adapting. I think diplomats bring food, but they love them.
What's your actual style? Because I know that you're an explorer, but what was your actual one?
Captain.
Okay.
So it fits in an explorer. But what's really funny, and this is gonna be my question, because I think when I first met you, Amy, I took the test, which was probably about 3 years ago, maybe 4. I was a strategist.
So your extroversion moved out.
And so now, my result was this past March of this year, and now I'm a captain. So I've switched from warrior to explorer. Do you see that often, that people flip like that?
It can. One drive. So you really had maybe 2 drives move just a little, your B and D.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you can change with time, with experience, with having children, with all kinds of things. Different passions, different jobs. A long time ago, they used to say your PI never changed. That's not true. People grow, mature, and have life events that can change how they see themselves. And so, yeah, they can change. Not for most people dramatically, but I would say you had, a couple things shift. Strategists, the big difference is your extroversion moved higher, although you're not super hot, like you're in the moderate. And your D moved more flexible, just a little bit. Do any of you have a drive that's in the third block, like real far to the left or real far to the right? That one you associate with really strongly right now.
Yeah.
Just by the adjectives. Like I said, y'all could change because you're still in your formative experience. I definitely changed in my, mid to late 20s. So you can still change and you'll want to take this again, just to see if it's presented to you later, but it's good to know right now, this is what I'm associating.
Have you seen anyone that stayed the same?
I have stayed the same, but my drives are very strong. The only thing that changed for me was my E, my D slightly. Okay. But the drives that didn't change are in the second and third sigma. So they're probably not going anywhere. But my D moved a little because it shifted. And my E shifted. Did anyone read theirs and think, who is this person? A little bit. Did you overthink it a little bit or no?
Yeah, but I think at first it was also just like we were just talking about, like kind of like the same words, different definitions.
I
kind of.
gotcha.
So like not necessarily that the results are inaccurate. I just perceive them a certain way at first.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, so it's not like, I don't think I messed up the test in any way. I think it's just like.
The
at
way they
first-
use the words.
Yeah, at first I was like, I mean, yeah, I'm extroverted, but like, I feel like I can kind of float both ways. And then I was like, I'm definitely not dominant, but it was kind of, I don't know. It was weird at first, but then once you explained like what each word.
Yeah, some of the computer summary words we don't always love, like what? But I get that. But yeah, if you overthink that second question, which some people do, and you read it and go, oh my gosh, just take it again and try to clear your head and not try to think too hard, like just what jumps out at you, like, okay, that's me. But that can be hard to do. Any questions? About that? Oh, we won't do theme song unless you want to do a theme song. I think we had questions. Anybody working with a manager right now? It's difficult. I'm just kidding. I know that. You're not difficult. That you need to like help with, like you think they're one of these styles.
Good question.
Don't tell me their name and email,
Yeah.
just tell me like, hey, I think I might be working with or it doesn't have to be a manager, it could be a peer, colleague, or.
What about people in a group project?
Could be that.
Yeah.
Could be that too.
Yeah.
That like don't want to do anything.
Yes, that's what.
Oh, that's probably that's probably just work ethic or you being people and collaborative. You might have to get your assertion up and say, this is your part, do it.
But I feel like when I say, like when I'm assertive, there's like, well, no, you know what you want to see, so you just do it. Like they take that as like, okay, like you've got it. But then when I try to like be like, no, like you guys like give me ideas, I left a few because you couldn't make it to the meeting, but like here's a few things for you to add to the Google Doc. It's like, no, they just won't do it. And then I won't get a response in the group chat. And I'm like, okay, well then I have to end up doing it because someone needs to turn it in on time.
My guess would be that if it's personality related, it could be, some people just don't. They're like perfectly happy for other people to do their work and that has nothing to do with this. But if you're not kind of reaching them, meaning, no, I wasn't asking, I think that's your ask orientation.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with somebody who's tell oriented. And so they will respond better to, I assigned you this. I know that's like hard for you to do, but
Yeah.
you should do, like, don't ask them, hey, do you want to contribute? Be like, I you weren't here. Did these things. Here's what I'm assigning you. Here's what I'm assigning you. And then you might find they might actually like respond to that better because that's what they would do.
Yeah, yeah,
They would just tell.
that's a good idea. Thank you.
It's your time now, group, you got group projects.
Yeah, the people,
It's just your time.
the people on the right side of this chart are more tell-oriented. So not that, we're rude about it, but we tend to be a little bit more directive. Like, hey, I need you to do this, or hey, that's our natural style. So we do respond well. Like if you were to tell me like, contribute if you want, I'd be like, do you want me to? I mean, be direct. I don't know what you want me to do. I would probably, so we respond better to, hey, Amy, I assigned you this. Got it, done, assertion, let's go. People on the left tend to respond better to collaborative approach. What do you think? What would you like? What would you like, or what do you think? And you need a little time, except for diplomats. They like to talk it out. Okay. Diplomats are the style where I used to send an email. Tomorrow in our meeting, we're going to talk about this. That style is like, oh my gosh, I have so many ideas and I can't. Let's talk it out tomorrow. But diplomats like to have a meeting, to which warriors are like, that could have been an email. And guardians, that could have been an email. So the top half, we like to have a meeting. Let's brainstorm, y'all. And the bottom half is like, oh my gosh, just send me an email.
No, if you're in the middle, like, are you just like the jack of all trades at that point?
I mean, you're kind of, so there's the benefit, you're a benefit of being adaptable. The downside is you're not very predictable. So when you're working with other people, there's times when you might take charge and other times when you don't. There's times when you might, so just be clear, like, hey, I'm gonna take charge of this piece and why, so people know, because they're not gonna be able to predict what you're gonna do as much as someone with a strong drive, if that makes sense. Which is helpful in some ways, not in others, just like any things, right? Just great and not great in every pattern.
What if somebody clicked on every single one?
You can't on this assessment. So, PI they study instrument reliability. And so, I can't remember the number, but I think you have to pick at least 7 and less than 80 for the instrument to be reliable. So you actually, if you clicked all of them, the instrument will tell you, that's a little much. I'm sure you're fabulous, but unclick a few. And if I think it's 7. Yeah, I think it's 7. So you clicked a low number.
Yeah.
But it was not, I think it was like 10.
Yeah.
It was low, but it's enough for the instrument. As long as you click 7, you're good. You might have been 7, I don't know. But it's
I don't
fine.
remember. I was hungry.
But you're also an adapter, so it might be hard for you to pick words. Think about it. If you're an adapter and it's like, I don't know, this is a lot of words that could apply or not apply. I was very like, I don't know, I was very decisive in my word choice because I felt very strongly about my choice. Other questions?
You did?
So right now I do this for a living. So I help companies and leaders figure out how to design their teams based on a variety of things, this being one of them. I teach them leadership development. I teach sales training. So, but before that, I was a sales leader, a business unit leader, and a turnaround specialist inside of a corporation. So I go into failing business units and figure out what's wrong. Why are we failing? And try to figure out how do we get things moving in the right direction. A lot of what we used was behavioral dynamics because we do believe and we know based on science and statistical data studying leadership teams that the average dynamic of a team largely influences how they make decisions, take risks, and behave as a leadership team, and therefore how successful they will be at different phases of the business cycle. So there's a lot of research in that in the last 60 years that this tool's been around. So we use this tool, like I said, to really just be a bit of a diagnostic to understand how to fill gaps, how to bring people in that could help, in the dynamics. Not to say somebody can't do something. It's more about preferences and average team behavior. Yeah. So now I help companies use this in a responsible way, but in a way that's going to help them be more successful in terms of how their leaders lead, how their teams operate. Yeah. It's a fun job. And this is not my tool. I didn't design this in my basement. This is a global tool used by 10,000 organizations. So I just happen to love it. It's one of my favorites, so I use it a lot. It's not mine.
There are no other questions.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Like to all of you, if I can help connect you, I do have a lot of clients in all over. So if you need help connecting and have some interest in certain companies, I'm happy to connect you. Just send me your resume. I'm sure you'll share my contact information. Keep in touch with me.
Also, she's on LinkedIn.
I am.
Connect.
And I'll be happy to help. I wish you all the best. You're stars. All right.
So much.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. If you didn't again, make sure you check in. And I will see you guys. Our next week. Our next workshop is next week in the morning. We have Bob White coming in. He's talking about managing your financial future. Some good stuff about financing and how you manage it. And so feel free to come in. Of course, we'll have food. So that's next Thursday, 9 a.m. We'll get you out before class if you got a 10 o'clock. So bye, guys. Have a good night, and I will see you soon.
Thank you for doing it.
I'm just not in the email list somehow or something that I get like. Do you send it all of emails after these like workshops? Okay, so I haven't, like, I don't know why, but someone after each work, I'm supposed to get like